Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make a Black Panther helmet from Wakanda Forever. For this project, you will need to download and print the templates from my website. The link is in the description. Cut out the templates and transfer them to 5mm thick EVA foam. When cutting out the pieces, make sure to follow the cutting guide. Edges marked with arrows pointing towards the piece are cut on an inward angle, and arrows pointing away from the piece are cut on an outward angle. And any edges not marked with arrows are just cut on a regular 90-degree angle. On gray dashed lines, you have to cut a V-groove cut on the back side of the piece. That's basically a channel that you can glue closed later to create a seamless angled edge. Black lines within the edges of a piece are scored about a quarter to halfway through the foam. After scoring these lines, use a heat gun to open them. And no, you can't use a hairdryer, it doesn't get hot enough. Any edges marked with black dotted lines will be slightly rounded over with a rotary tool. And finally, any gray lines should be marked on the foam but not cut. These will be guides later. I then heat-shaped some of the bigger pieces. Okay, that was a lot of information, but it's finally time to assemble the helmet. After gluing the whole helmet together, you'll need to fill in the seams that won't be covered later. These include the seam running from the bottom of the chin to just under the nose, the seam across the chin, the seam running from the brow to the very back of the helmet, the seam running from ear to ear on the back, the horizontal seam on the back, and the 2 darts on the top of the helmet. I used EVA foam clay to fill the seams because it sands really well, but you could use whatever flexible filler you want. I filled the seams by first wetting the surface with water so it sticks, pressing the clay into the seam, then smoothing it with water. Once the foam clay is dry, sand it flush with the rest of the helmet. Next, heat seal the foam clay with the heat gun. This doesn't apply if you used a different filler. Next, transfer the detail pieces to 2mm foam. Then score the details on these pieces. I scored the pieces before cutting them out because I knew if I cut them out first, they'd warp in a weird way when I heat it with the heat gun because of how small and thin they are. After opening the cuts with the heat gun, cut out the pieces. Next, glue these pieces on the helmet using super glue and following the guidelines marked on the helmet. Alright, at this point the helmet is completely built. Time to prepare the surface for paint by heat sealing the entire helmet with the heat gun. Next, paint the helmet black. I used Plaid FX paint, which is a flexible paint designed specifically for EVA foam. I added about 2 to 3 coats of this paint. Then paint the gold details, again about 2 to 3 coats. Reference images come in really handy with this step. Also, don't forget to paint the edges of the pieces too. I found a paint pen worked really well for this, but a small paintbrush would too. Then paint the silver details, again 2 to 3 coats, and painting the edges as well. For the round details on the forehead, I found the perfect thing at the dollar store. They're called pearl stickers. They're just small silver half-sphere things. Glue them on using super glue, following the placement guides on the helmet. The guides might not be visible after painting the helmet, so before painting, you might want to poke small holes in the center of each circle. For the eyes, I used clear plastic and I stuck some white perforated vinyl on top. I put a piece of paper behind the eye of the helmet to trace the shape, then cut that shape out of the plastic, and glued them behind the eyes. Finally, put some tape around the eye to cover the sharp edges, and with that, the Black Panther helmet is finished. If you like this video, then you'll probably also like this one here where I make Mr. Knight's mask. That's all for now. I'll see you in the next video.